Early this week, I caught up with Antjuan Seawright at the State Capitol building to discuss Senate Democrats' 2014 agenda and other major political issues to watch for this year. Among the issues discussed were state, county, and city level elections and lawmakers' priorities for this political season. Seawright serves as president and CEO of Sunrise Communications. Founded by State Senator Darrell Jackson, Sunrise is the oldest and most prestigious African American PR, advertising, and political strategy firm in South Carolina. Antjuan, what's been going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, Mike. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Always happy to get your emails and see all your communications from the Minority Eye. I'm very proud of the work y'all doing.
Well, I appreciate it. Antjuan, if you would, start by telling us what your job title is and what exactly you do with the South Carolina Senate as far as working with Sunrise.
Sure. Well, and through Sunrise, I serve as the Deputy Director of the South Carolina Senate Democratic Caucus. In the state Senate here in South Carolina, we have 18 state senators who are Democrats, and my job is to serve as the Deputy Director. That includes fundraising, that includes political strategy, and everything you can imagine that they may need during the course of the year.
All right. Well, I want to ask you a couple questions. I want to start. 2014 is going to be a big year.
It's a big year. It's an election year, so that makes it a big year.
Big year. A lot of things. First thing I want to touch on real quick is how South Carolina, or what South Carolina Democrats, especially Senate Democrats, are going to do regarding Affordable Care Act.
Sure.
What are the strategies as far as helping that get implemented in South Carolina?
Well, Mike, since our leader, Senator Nikki Setzler, took over in 2012, we've had 4 priorities, and that's jobs, education, health care, and infrastructure. And health care, as you mentioned before, falls under one of those categories. And I think the top priority for us as Senate Democrats, for our caucus, is really to make sure and urge our leaders to expand Medicaid here in South Carolina. The Affordable Care Act, because of the Supreme Court ruling, it allows for states to decide whether or not they're going to expand Medicaid. Many states, Republican governors around this country, red states just like South Carolina, have made the decision to expand Medicaid in our state. It seems as if our leaders here in South Carolina decide to do something else. That's 300,000 people, working South Carolina citizens, who will be able to have health care if we decide to expand Medicaid. Now, the unfortunate thing about it is the Senate Democrats, we're only 18, so we're in the minority. So it's very hard for us to really get something done. So our job is to continue to urge the Republican Party and the governor who's in control of the state to really embrace Medicaid expansion and give access to health care for 300,000 working South Carolinians.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what the agenda will be this year as far as on the Senate side.
Well, I think for us, I can't speak to my friends on the other side of the aisle, but I think for us it goes back to the 5 things I mentioned to you earlier, and that's education. We want to continue to work to expand Senator Shaheen's proposal to have 4-year kindergarten for all students across South Carolina. We are behind in education, we know that. North Carolina and Georgia has universal 4-year kindergarten for all students. So one of our main objectives this session is to expand 4-year kindergarten across South Carolina. On the jobs front, we traditionally have one of the highest unemployment rates in the union here in South Carolina. And we see a lot of job announcements coming out of the governor's office, but as you saw in the state newspaper just a few days ago, there's no guarantee those are going to be jobs.
Right.
And so we've seen the publicity stunt, and I call it the PR propaganda pump. But we've lost a lot of jobs in South Carolina. We still have one of the highest unemployment rates. And in the African-American community, we have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. And so we'll continue to work on that front. On the front of infrastructure, our roads and bridges in the state are crumbling. All you have to do is go down I-26 going to Charleston any day of the week, and traffic is backed up. You run across potholes, and our bridges are crumbling. So we have to do something as relates to infrastructure in this country, and in South Carolina primarily. So that'll be one of our top priorities as well.
Okay. What are you guys doing as far as candidate recruitment? Several prominent Republicans are not filing for re-election. So are you guys in the process of recruiting to fill those seats?
Sure. Well, we're really excited as Democrats in South Carolina because, one, we think we will have a full slate of candidates running next year. Okay. As you know, Mike, because you're politically astute, all House races will be up next year, and all statewide races, including our federal offices. We have a declared candidate for governor so far, and that's Senator Vincent Shaheen, that most of us are really, really excited about. We have 2 declared candidates on the Democratic side for the state superintendent of education race. Superintendent Zace has decided not to run for re-election, so Dr. Montreal Belton of Fort Mill, South Carolina, and Coach and Representative Mike Anthony of Union, South Carolina, have put their name in the hat. For the U.S. Senate race, taking on Senator Tim Scott, we have Mr. Rick Wade, who's former political advisor to President Barack Obama, and we have County Councilwoman Joyce Dickerson here in Richland County, who now serves as the vice chair of our county council here in Richland County.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up Richland County.
Yeah.
What's going on with the penny sales tax?
Well, let me back up when we're talking about the county, because we were talking about elections just a few minutes ago. And here in Richland County, there will be several countywide elections, including a few county council seats. Solicitor Dan Johnson, who runs countywide here in Richland County, will be up for re-election. Our county auditor, Mr. Paul Brawley, will be up for re-election. And so will our county treasurer, Mr. David Adams, and our county probate judge, Judge McCullough, will be up for re-election next year. And I think there may be 2 or 3 county council seats up. I know former county council chairman Paul Livingston will be up for re-election. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Seth Rose seat will be up for re-election as well. And so that's going on in the county. And you brought the penny, and it's interesting you brought that up, because just this past Tuesday night, the county decided on the massive program management piece, so who will ultimately do most of the work as relates to doing the work of the penny. And I think they made a decision on the firm. I heard the vote was somewhere around 7-4, so it was a pretty serious vote, and pretty defining vote of where the decision was made. So we're really excited to see what will happen next. I know there's been millions of dollars expected to be generated as it relates to the penny over a 20-year span. I'm really excited about what that's going to do for infrastructure here in Richland County, because our future depends on 2 things, and that's jobs and our infrastructure here in the county. And I'm really excited about where things are going.
Okay. Tell us a little bit, or give us some insight on the city of Columbia. As far as the Bull Street project, that's going to be a real big project for the city, the county, the state. So where are we with that?
Well, Mike, I think the Bull Street project is probably one of the most important economic development engines I've seen in my time here in Columbia. I mean, the billion-dollar impact we've seen from the study that was done about the project just says a lot within itself. I think they're in the process of getting the wheels turning. I read in the paper and I saw a couple of TV interviews where the developer, Mr. Bob Hughes in Greenville, and the mayor of Columbia, Steve Benjamin, is interested in bringing a baseball team here to Columbia, a minor league baseball team. We have used to be the Capital City Bombers. I think it's the Columbia Blowfish now, and they're a minor league team, but we're talking serious minor league baseball. And the article in the paper 2 days ago indicated that the owner of a very high-profile minor league baseball team has gave an indication to the city leaders that if they build a stadium, he will guarantee a team here in Columbia, South Carolina. So that's pretty exciting. I know that property in that space is very historic in its own right, but I think in order to move our city forward, this is going to be great. I mean, from restaurants to housing to shopping centers to potential baseball, it is going to change the face of the city of Columbia.
Right. Hope that works. We're going to check back with you and find out some more information on that.
I'm really excited. I want to commend my mayor and members of City Council for really taking the necessary steps to move the ball forward on that. Because, sometimes it's not easy to journey into the unknown. But the mayor, with his leadership and the help of several other council members, they were able to move the ball forward. And as a result, we are looking to have generational impact because of the Bull Street project.
Right. Tell us a little bit. The governor's race is not coming up this year, but any political code knows that this has already started. Right now, the only declared candidate we have is Senator Shaheen. How is that shaping up?
Well, I think it's going to be a very exciting race. All you have to do is pick up the Washington Post when they lay out the 2014 races or the races for this cycle, and the race between, so far, Governor Nikki Haley and State Senator Vincent Shaheen. I think it's somewhere around number 7 or number 6 in races to watch.
Wow.
So it's going to be a very exciting race. It feels like the race never stopped. It feels like, she was sworn in office in January of 2011, and back and forth we've seen a lot of things happen in relation to that race. I'm really excited. I'm excited about the possibility of State Senator Vincent Shaheen. I'm biased in this regard because Vincent's a friend and a very close friend, a mentor, and we have a relationship. And I was privileged to be a part of his last campaign, and I think I'll be a part of this campaign. I'm really excited. At the end of the day, this is going to come down to two things, and that's leadership and accountability. And I think that he is the best person for the job.
Okay. One last question before we go, Antjuan. This is going to be the first cycle where you have widespread elections.
Sure.
So the voter ID laws will be in full effect. Are there things being put in place to kind of help people navigate that process?
Well, first of all, let me go back and say I'm very disappointed in our leadership here in the state because, Mike, we spent millions of taxpayers' dollars to quote-unquote track down zombie voters, and the report came out that there were no such thing as zombie voters. We had no voter ID, no voter law problem here in South Carolina. It was just something the Republican Party, those who control our state, wanted to do to check a box. We saw it coming because several other states in the union decided to do it. Well, here comes South Carolina. We went to court. We spent millions of taxpayers' dollars to find out what we already knew. There's no problems with voting here in South Carolina. So that's on one regard. And, things are being done. I know several groups around the state, from churches to urban leagues to youth groups to the NAACP, are urging people to go and get a state-issued ID. However, the law is very clear. You cannot be denied the right to vote when you show up. And so for anyone who may be watching this video, who may watch it later on, do not let anyone deny you your right to vote at the polls come June or November. June is the primary date here in South Carolina, and November is the general election date. You cannot be denied the right to vote. Even if you don't have the proper ID, you can still vote. You will have to sign an affidavit, a form saying you are who you say you are, and you will cast a provisional ballot, which later will be accounted for. But your vote will count, and do not walk away from the polls without voting.
All right, well, I think that's a perfect place to stop. Appreciate you taking
time.
Thank
you, Mike. I appreciate you having me, man.
All right.
Yes, sir.